Right. Let's get into it. Let's see what we can expect for the coming week. What do you think about the market?
I think the whole market generally is going to be bullish. By the whole market.
The whole market?
Yeah.
Everything.
Everything.
Okay.
Gold, Euro USD, oil, GBP USD, all of these things.
So basically everything which is not dollar.
Yeah.
Okay.
I still see the potential for the dollar to decrease a little bit more.
I also think that this week is going to be the week for the safe havens.
Yeah.
Being the gold being in the first place, then after that, respectively, CHF and then JPY.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the commodities right now. I think experiencing what we have during the past week, gold has proven that it's here to go up and up, as everyone would expect. But I don't see it being I don't see the market being very convinced that the Fed is done. Because even though we know that they've come a long way, and I know that they almost got their hands on what they think they should, I think market is just like holding that slight chance that there's going to be another surprise since there's always been one. And I think that's going to be threatening gold this week. But generally, I think the fear is very strong right now. And I think it's going to only go higher.
But I think, in my opinion, the market, actually the majority of the market participants think that the Fed is done. So that is one of the main reasons that the gold could go.
Don't you read these researchers like once in a while popping up saying the Fed is not done, we're in for a surprise?
But the main thing that they focus on is actually rate increases.
Yeah.
That's somehow down, and it's being priced by the market. So I think in that case, the Fed is done. But the thing that is in focus is when they're going to cut the rates, because that's actually gonna impact the bullish rally of the gold. Right now, because of the pricing of the sooner cuts sooner, actually, it's better to say that like that, the gold is going up. So in my opinion, there are more chances for the gold to go up this week, because the dollar has more chances to decrease, especially because the market expects that we will get softer readings of some of the data that we have, labor data that we have at the end of the week. Yeah. So in my opinion, and also about the commodities you mentioned, let's talk about oil a little bit as well. The market was really worried. The reason why it fell, like the oil fell the previous, I think, the week, was that they thought that there was more surplus. So we had more supply than
let's
the demand.
Not forget the fact that OPEC Plus disappointed them badly.
Exactly. But we still see that there's going to be some supply cuts. A little less than what the market was expecting, but still supply cuts. So that's going to concern the traders. And I think that's going to create a situation for the oil to go up.
Okay, so where do you see oil standing in this whole weakening dollar scenario? While we know that there's not much chance left for the dollar to peak up and just rise again.
Yeah. Another reason for the oil to go up, because the demand for the oil by the countries that don't have the currency of the dollar is going to be much better. So I think that's going to be another reason for the oil to go up. Maybe see 80, 81, 82
levels.
Yeah, levels throughout the week. So in my opinion, the commodities could go up this
There's
week.
Something here that I don't quite really grasp. The fact that the relation between dollar, among commodities, the relation between the price of the gold and the oil, how they tend to rise at the same time because we have a weakening dollar.
Yeah.
And if we're setting a bullish outlook for gold for the coming week, does that necessarily mean that we're going to experience a higher price of oil because the gold is going higher, or do you think there's going to be other derivatives that can lead the price higher to the 81 levels?
Yeah, I think that the derivative that is going to push the price of the oil higher is the fact that now the market is a bit more worried about the balance of the supply and the demand, because the market was really convinced that there's more supply, especially from the US.
Yeah.
Now, because of the cuts, although they're not as big, the market thinks that the balance might be a little less. So in that case, because of the worries, because they're concerned, they're worried, in that case, they're going to push the prices higher.
But let me bring this other factor in the play. The fact that generally in the market these days, there is a belief that the demand is becoming weaker and there's going to be lower production levels than what we believe that we should have on the month of December. What do you think how that thing is going to affect this 81 price that you're suggesting?
I don't think just the whole demand is related to the production, because we have the seasonal
effect. Part of it,
yeah,
definitely.
we have the seasonal factor as well, because it's winter. There's also demand coming from the seasons as well. So I think compared to for example the summer, when the production is at its peak. Of course, we will have like less demand, but compared to the previous month, maybe, or compared to the previous week, we're going to have more demand in the.
Okay, so we know how much we're getting the supply. We know how much the demand is out there. What could surprise the markets this week in terms of the price of oil?
Other than the upside, which I think is going to happen.
That could be a surprise as well.
Yeah. You mean it could go further down?
I'm just suggesting, I'm just entertaining the idea that because all of this data that we just talked about is well known in the market might not just give us the outcome that we expect, since everyone knows it.
So I think if something else happens to the dollar, then that can have an effect.
Do we have like a speech planned for the coming week from the Fed?
From the Fed, some Fed members have some speeches planned, but I don't think from anyone important, unless they have something new to say.
Okay, shade.
Yes. Unless they have something new to say. I think if we don't take a look at one of the members of the Fed who specifically talked about the rate cuts.
We're talking about Waller.
Yeah. Other than him, no one has ever mentioned, not just from the Fed, from the BOE or ECB, they don't really talk about
and
cutting.
Knowing Waller is actually one of the bullish members, this makes it more powerful.
Yeah, he's actually from the board of the governors, so he has the right to actually talk about, to vote. So in my opinion, we cannot expect other members to actually talk about or have a very dovish stance, just like him.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, there could be a case for the dollar to actually rise as well, depending on the data that we are expecting for the labor market at the end of the week.
Actually, you know what? On Friday, when dollar was like dropping dead on the charts, I was wondering, on Monday morning, are people gonna consider the fact that we might have an upside to the dollar because it's very low? Because you know that that actually happens in the market.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it names, but there is this tendency to like see dollar and any other commodity or currency pair, to see them on a specific level, and once you see it lower than that, everyone's just like, oh, it's gotta come back up. I have to buy. You know?
I think when the dollar reaches, I'm talking about the index, if it reaches 103, then people might think that it could reverse and go up again.
And where is it now? Is it close?
Yeah, 103.1.
193, I guess.
Yeah, so it's very close to that level that it could reverse and go up.
That's actually the same scenario for gold. We're seeing it on very low levels of, not very low levels, but like recently low levels of 72, 73. It recently came back up from there. And there's this downtrend.
You're talking about oil.
I just switched I just switched topics, but I was talking about gold. About the dollar, I'm sorry. The downtrend that we're seeing right now on the oil charts, I don't think it's gonna be broken pretty easily. I think it's gonna try until finally one day it will get it up, and I don't think many traders can get on that wave that easily. You need to actually, let's talk about the fact that you need to lose money to get money in this market. So like you go in a position, you lose, and then one day you don't anymore, as long as you're like keeping to your strategy and like you're not acting emotional, let's say, in terms of getting into positions. I think gold can be like have a successful week in the coming days.
So we had this person, which he would say that the trend is your friend.
Oh,
yes,
God.
and I think the trend of the gold is bullish. So I think if the traders go along with the trend, the bullish trend, they could be profitable. And even if it falls, it's going to be a good opportunity for them to get into a buying position. And based on the factors, the economical factors, it will be beneficial for them to get into a buying position.
So if we think about gold as a bullish commodity this week, how would that affect the way we're looking at stocks?
I think for the stocks, if you're looking at the bullishness of the gold because of the weakness of the dollar, I think the stocks are going to be bullish.
Chance for stocks as well. There's always that, but there have been times that the dollar was weakening and the U.S. indexes were also weakening because of the low sentiment that there is out there for the dollar. So I don't think we should base all of stocks movements upon what's happening to the U.S. index.
Do they have earnings this week?
Not the ones that matter, but we
think
actually passed it a few weeks ago, the earnings seasons, and it was a pretty bullish one for the U.S. Companies, and it was not expected. But the most important one actually that we got very recently, was Nvidia, I guess, and it caused that huge movement on the
NASDAQ
stocks, on the United States stocks.
Yes.
But I actually do not see what's gonna happen to stocks this week, because we just saw DJI's like highest levels for 2023, and it was not expected. Like I think it was related to an earning that you were reporting the other day on the live show.
It was.
What was it again?
Salesforce. It's
Is
something
it
like
Target
Walmart, Target and stuff like that. And it had a really good surplus of earnings for Q3. But other than that, let's talk about the historical performance of the gold and the stocks in the month of December. So there's this chart that I found that it says that in December, the gold performs really well historically for the past, I think, 7 years.
I wonder why that is.
So like the average of the return is about 4%. And I don't remember for SPX, but I think it's also something positive. And the biggest one is actually on silver, which is about 7.25%.
Did not expect that.
So stocks and commodities like gold and silver really perform well in December.
So I think it's all coming together. We're expecting a lower dollar. We're expecting probably another visit of the ATH of gold and
historically,
stocks.
November and December are softer months for the dollar as well.
Yeah,
doesn't matter what the data or the economic situation is. Historically, it's like that. So the historical factor has to be taken into consideration, I think.
Why would this year be any different? But let's talk about the fact that we have this scenarios for gold and dollar and the stocks. How would that affect the currency pairs that kind of depend on the US dollar? I think with the data that we're coming this week from the labor market of the US, we could expect a mixed sentiment in the market towards the strength of the economy in United States. That might actually create some chances for euro or for currencies like JPY or CHF to rise, but I do not think they will be lasting very long.
It depends. I think maybe at the beginning of the week, we could see them perform really well and then really badly by the end of the week. It depends on the labor market data. But I have to tell you something. I think if the data comes really close to the forecast, I don't think it will have a huge impact.
Oh, I'm going to have to disagree with you there. I think right now, in the heat of the moment, the slightest chances of something being not... I mean, I know what you mean by like the expectations being close to the previous one, but even the slightest difference from what's actually happening and what is expected could have a huge impact on the strength of US, therefore the other currency pairs.
Yes.
So I think the forecasts for JOLTS are higher.
JOLTS, ADP, NFP, they are a bit higher than the previous readings. But if I think what I mean is if the actual data is closer to the forecast, is close to the forecast, based on what we experienced 2 or 3 days ago, like the ISM or the PCE,
Right.
They didn't impact the market that much. Although they were a little less than the previous month, they were very close to the forecast.
But
so if this happens to
yeah.
NFP or ADP, I think not a lot can happen to the dollar,
Yeah.
but I think the gold will still be bullish.
But let me draw your attention to the fact that dollar was not this down the last time ISM got out, like was released, or the Powell never spoke and said absolutely nothing market related. So I think traders right now are start this week is gonna be the decision making of traders whether if the dollar has started its very strong downfall. And I think this is why I'm saying the slightest changes that is not expected in the market will affect US dollar like never before. Because I think people are trying to decide right now, okay, am I gonna stay on US because there's a little bit more life in like there's something left in it, or should I just move on to the more like the safe havens that we all know and we love. I think this is like the turning point of markets deciding whether the downtrend of dollar has started, period.
So what do you think about the performance of the other currencies? So I personally think that there is a chance for the euro and for the GBP to go up this week.
Why would you think there is a chance for euro? Do we have
because in my opinion, because I want to be bullish on gold and I want the dollar to go
you
down.
want to? Okay,
yes.
Let's talk about the biases, people.
And then I want the euro USD and GBP USD to go up because I think that the USD is going to perform weak this week. So what do you think about the performances of euro and GBP based on, I don't know, the economic situation or the central bank policies?
Honestly, I don't think the movers of the market are euro and GBP this week, and I think they're gonna be following the more let's say powerful commodities and the economies this week. So I think they're just gonna be followers this week. So I have like I'm not basing any scenarios upon their strength or their weakening. I think there will be followers as they've been until now.
You mean the prominent player here will be USD? So.
Definitely, for sure. And this is why I'm putting all my eggs in the basket of data being a little bit further from the markets expect, so we can actually see a difference in sentiments of what was happening until now. Because dollar, when you say the dollar, it just safe haven and like the reserve of all the currencies pop up to your head, and I think that will not go away unless there is a big factor changing that in the heads of the traders.
And there's one more thing that we have to take into consideration is the performance of the bonds, because that also affects
bonds.
Yes, that also has some impact on the performance of the USD. So if this week the bonds market is active and people are buying bonds.
Right. I don't think I'm gonna stop you right there because I don't think it's happening. Okay, if we were having this conversation last month, I would tell you there is nothing on earth that could stop the rally of bonds, specifically the long terms. But right now, we're actually seeing like 1 point something percent like drop of the
yields.
Of the yields, thank you.
So that means that the people are buying bonds. So what I mean is that
the yield is dropping, so people are buying more.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the derivative. I think they're giving up on dollar.
Exactly. When they give up on the dollar because they think that the rates can come down, they go and buy bonds because they want to like strengthen their portfolio. So I think if the bond market is active, then there's another reason for the dollar to come down.
Okay, I see where you're coming at. I could agree with that.
Yeah.
At some levels, on some levels.
Okay, so we talked about the gold, and we talked about Euro USD.
Talked about WTI and Brent.
And then what else is left? Let's talk about the sentiment.
The sentiment.
Yes. Let's see what's going to happen.
What could be the movers this week? We don't have geopolitical tensions.
Do we have any data from China?
We actually have CPI and PPI on the weekend, but I don't think. I think we're gonna
next week.
Yes, on Sunday the coming week. I mean, on Sunday we're gonna have the CPI and PPI both expected to be lower. But let's be honest, with the last readings that we got of Caixin and the official one, the PMIs, and the way that they were mixed, I don't know what to think anymore.
So I think the outlook for China's economy is already like something that people think negatively of. But I think it does not have a huge impact as it did like some months ago. Because some months ago when the data came...
You think it's priced in?
Yeah, I think it's priced in. People think that that China and the data that comes from the country is performing relatively weaker.
Yeah.
So I don't think it has a huge impact on the dollar, basically. So if I remember correctly, some months ago when the data came from China, which was weak and weaker from the previous month, the dollar would like have a surprisingly positive performance. But it didn't happen like some days ago when we had those bad
we have a bigger game to play here.
So I think so I think the market does not react that much to the data, the negative data that comes from China.
Because we've been getting so much of it, and like the next day we were seeing something completely in contrast with what we thought we knew. When I think people are actually like giving up on the strength or the weakening of yuan, because we don't know nothing, since like like the economy is not that clear as well. The transparency of the basically the whole country is very much questioned in the market.
So let's talk about something else. Let's talk about traders who trade AUD/USD or NZD/USD.
Oh, we have the RBA rate next week.
Yes, exactly.
Like I think this is the second time that they're gonna like be talking about rates after the 0.25% rate that they did 2 months ago.
So I think this week is gonna be a good week for AUD as well. So I don't know if they are gonna change the rates, but
I don't think they are.
So I think for the traders who trade AUD/USD, this week is going to be a good week, in my opinion, because the dollar is, in my head, is going to fall more, and AUD is performing relatively well. The risk on mood for risk on currencies like AUD, NZD, and CAD. So in my opinion, AUD/USD is going to perform well.
I think I have an opposing idea to what you believe is going to happen to AUD/USD. Although I believe what you said about the dollar and what you're saying, it's in your head. But I still think that the data from China is going to be affecting the markets, and I don't think it's going to give AUD/USD the chance that it needs to rise. Because every time that we saw AUD/USD rise, there was its own strength and there was the support from China data. And if we're not going to have the positive China data, or at least we're going to have confusion in that case, and then we're going to see the rates not higher with a bullish governor, then why would there be a place for AUD/USD to rise?
Maybe after they announced the rates in the statement, they're hawkish. So
I think she's definitely gonna be hawkish, because once you've started something, once you've started
the strength to go up, and
it also did that last week. So, and how much more do you think AUD can rise?
I think
in the sentiment of a market that we think it's going to be risk off because of what's happening to the dollar. What do you think that the ceiling of its rise would be?
I think a huge part of it is going to be the underperformance of the dollar. Then AUD/USD can rise, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it needs other derivatives as well, and it doesn't have, it's lacking there.
Do you think for traders, when they're trading these types of currency pairs, they have to take a look at the correlations that the currency pairs have with each other?
That would be so important, and they would be making a huge mistake if they don't go there. So
AUD/USD, is it AUD/USD that they say is correlated to the gold? So if I think because the gold is bullish, AUD/USD is also bullish.
One of the most biggest exporters of gold, and also the buyers, and also the China is like a whole triangular relationship that they have: Australia, China, and gold.
So we have established that the gold is bullish. So AUD/USD, which is correlated to gold.
I mean, yeah.
could
That
be
could
bullish.
also.
And the NZD USD, because AUD and NZD are somehow on the same page, could be bullish. So basically that supports the idea of USD not performing well this week.
Yeah, we know that. I mean, I believe you when you say USD is not
But
gonna...
how about if the data that comes for the labor market, like NFP, ADP, as it mentions, it's higher as it is forecasted? I want to be on my own team of saying that dollar is going to be weak, but let's take a look at the scenario where the dollar is going to perform better if the data is higher.
Which is also very possible from the levels that we see on the charts.
I mean, the resilience of the labor market. So which one do you think for the traders must be more important? ADP, NFP, if we just take a look at the data?
I think firstly, the timely manner of their releases is the case in point. I think first of all, we're going to get JOLTS, right? Or is it ADP?
Yes, JOLTS on Tuesday.
JOLTS. I think JOLTS could start like a movement, you know, like it could start an effect that will continue until we get NFP on Friday. And I think it's really important what kind of sentiment it sets.
Yes.
The first data that we get. The one that we get tomorrow might deny what was given the day before, but I think that sentiment is going to stick to a lot of people's head. So
do you think that's wrong to follow the sentiment of the data?
Well, it's never wrong to follow the sentiment, but I don't always think acting according to the sentiment and what's mostly and widely believed within the traders it will lead you to profits. Let me say it in simpler words. There might be a derivative of sentiments in the markets, but it will not always lead you to profits. Because this behavior of, you know, everyone's doing it, so let me just do it as well, it does not end well in the financial markets because so many waves in the markets are just started out of nowhere. Like no one knows what happened, or there's like just one word from BOJ's governor and one word from these governors or the presidents, and it will not even actually have an impact. It's just words, just air. It just starts a whole movement, and so many people want to get on that movement because they think Trender is their friend, and it does not end well. So I don't think we should stick and like put all of our eggs in the basket of sentiment, but I think we should know what other people are thinking, and we can maybe our positions will oppose what the sentiment is, you know, like suggesting, but at least having like knowing what most of the market think, it's gonna help.
Yeah. So who do you think benefits more from this type of week that we have? Because usually the first week of the month and the second week of the month are important, but for what type of trader? For example, for me, in my opinion, I think a swing trader can benefit more.
True, because it's setting the mood for everything that we're gonna see the coming weeks. But I think everyone, basically, whoever is trying to be active in this market, I think all the participants could actually use the data we're getting this week. And I think the labor market being one of the most important derivatives of the whole power of the US index, I think it's putting extra stress on it. So I think everyone will be watching the data closely.
But I think a scalper cannot benefit a lot from the data that comes this week.
Ask that from the people who get like 200 pips on the data of JOLTS or ADP.
And so in my opinion, whenever a data is coming out, like NFP, like ADP, the market pays a lot of attention. So the movements when it's getting close to the data release is really a lot. It's volatile because the bigger players get out of the positions. Because
why do you think they get out of positions?
Because they don't want to take the risk of the data not being as it is forecasted.
So they save their profits.
Yeah, they get out of the position. So then the retail traders remain.
Would you suggest that to a retail trader to get out of their positions before the data release?
For example, for a person who's a scalper, I would recommend. I would recommend that they get out of the trade before something like NFP.
I think that's exactly where they would want to get into this position.
I think it's wrong because
scalping? Isn't that the whole idea of scalping?
But I don't think news trading benefits a lot of traders. So you could move your positions if you're a scalper before the data releases or after the data releases, as you've seen, for example, a little bit of
how many minutes or hours after or before?
I don't know. Maybe after 30 minutes, you can get the gist of where the market is going.
I think the core of a scalper is based upon what they think the data is going to offer and bring to the table.
But we have like scalpers and then news traders. But for the scalper, for their positions to be a little bit more guaranteed, so that they wouldn't lose their profits, it's better for them to trade before a data is released or
but
after.
But can we agree on the fact that the most volatile times of the day are the times that the data are being released? And can we agree on the fact that scalpers are looking for those huge movements so they can enter on a 1 minute candle and just exit on the next? So wouldn't they make the time of the data the perfect storm for them to enter the position?
So at least even if they're a scalper, they have to take a little bit of time. I mean, like 10
I get
minutes.
what you mean. Like, just give it time for the market to digest it. But like, hear me out. I think a scalper thinks that they know what's going to happen on the data, or at least they make a wild guess, right? But, so based on that wild guess that they make, they're like, it's R2R, like what am I going to lose? What do I have to gain and what do I have to lose? So you just guess a direction, get into the position. It's either you are in a huge profit or you lose everything, and you try this next time.
But in my opinion, a person who's a scalper is a person who doesn't know anything about the data. Because if you know things about the data and how it has performed in the previous months that they were released, you wouldn't get into the position as it is being released, or 5 minutes before it's released, or 5 minutes.
Not if you think you know what's going to happen.
But you don't know what's going to happen all the time.
This is what I'm saying. They make a wild guess of saying that this is going to be the direction of the news and this is where the chart is going. I'm going to get on it. It's going to be I'm going to be either mistaking or I'm going to take a lot of profits.
But that's a lot of risk that they're taking.
It is.
And that's what's going to hurt their portfolio and whatever they have. That's too much risk.
If you have an R2R that matches your, ideas, I think it might work for some people.
But if they lose the profit, if they lose whatever they have in their portfolio and in their account, that's going to lead to revenge trading. They say, okay, I've lost it. Now I'm going to trade something.
It happens a lot. I've seen many examples like that. And
I think, for example, these things like that, following a trend of everybody trading NFP creates things like FOMO. So these are, in my opinion, you have to stick to the strategies that you want to have, even if you're a scalper. I think mostly for the scalpers, because swing traders benefit.
And your strategy tells you that dollar is weakening this week and we're going to see a rise in gold, and everything that depends somehow on the US index is going to experience a little bit of at least
better performance. That's my opinion.
Okay, that's interesting. I agree to some extent to you on that, but I'm a little less dovish on the dollar as you seem to be right now. But
so
I guess
you see the case for it performing better.
I see some support for the US dollar, and I don't see oil being. I don't see oil on very high levels this week, at least. I'm counting for the first and second week of the next year, the coming year, 2024. And that's where I think I'm going to see the actual movement on gold, on oil. These weeks, I just think we're going to be like in a very, very limited
a
range price. Just we're going to be there for a while until some people lose money, some people gain money, we get some volatility. And I think the whole thing, the story for oil, it's for 2024.
Actually, something really interesting that I saw about the oil and its performance in 2024, because it is expected for the oil to perform really well. And they say that it's going to gain, the return of buying oil is about 11 to 12%. And Bank of America
Bank of America, I love.
Yes, because I like their predictions. But that's something I support as well. I think 2024 is going to be the time that it performs really well. But in my opinion, oil could be bullish on the fact that if the dollar is weakening.
I see where you're coming from. I would really love to see a surprise on the NZD and AUD part, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think you would disagree. You have more faith in them, but I still think they're going to be the secondary movers of the market.
Because in my opinion, the sentiment this week for the whole market is going to be risk on. I mean, AUD and NZD performing well, CHF and JPY not so much. And the mover of the gold is not going to be the sentiment. It's going to be the bonds and it's going to be the dollar, in my opinion.
Wow. It was nice to have this outlook. I know what I can expect the coming week.
Yeah.